Hey everybody, this is Andy, aka Love Retro BTW, across Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. I do a podcast every Saturday called Cafe BTW, a morning gaming podcast, a retrospective look at the wonderful world of retro gaming, from interviews to guests. Join us every Saturday, like a Saturday morning cartoon, starting at 8 a.m., 11 a.m. Eastern. Also, if you're on Twitter, please join the brand new retro gaming community, a place to share, connect, and show your love for the retro gaming community. All the links are down below. And remember, enjoy the Gamers Week podcast.
This time on Gamers Week podcast.
A Dead by Daylight movie. I saw this and
yes.
I was like, whoa, the possibilities are endless.
The whole hook part to it, I think, would be kind of unique, watching somebody get hooked and then taking them off of it. Like there's that gory piece to it as well.
Right.
And watching them just walk it off and keep going. That's
Exactly.
what I always wondered about.
And then they're at the gate and teabagging with the flashlight and everything. The killer, like, come on, click, 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 click.
The end of it just goes, GG easy.
Yeah, GG easy. That's what you see at the end of the credits.
Yep. Somebody had to be late.
Uh-huh.
I sincerely apologize.
What's your excuse this time?
I feel like I'm on the verge of death. Is that good enough?
Oh.
You're sick again.
I'm sick again.
Well, I will say the listeners are probably really excited to hear Blue sick voice again. So.
They do so love it for whatever odd reason. It's a weird kink, but all right.
This isn't Blue sick voice. This is not true Blue
Yeah, it's
sick
not
voice.
100%. You're right.
No.
But it's just enough.
Just a sprinkle, a salt-based sprinkle of Blue sick voice.
I'm just trying to give the people what they want. I'm considerate that way.
Well, would you like to go ahead and start so we don't have to keep you very long tonight?
All right.
Shake it off. Just shake it off. You got this. And I'm going to record all that, take it back, make that my ringtone.
I guess what you listen to during your personal time is up to you.
We don't kink shame, okay? And that includes hosts, okay?
I just said it was up to you.
Okay. I still feel the judginess in your voice.
All right. Welcome to Gamers Week podcast. Like the name says, we analyze the best, worst, and weirdest headlines of the past week in the video game industry. This is episode 63, and today is Wednesday, March 8th, 2023. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. My name is Blue Williams, and I'll be your host for this evening. Please forgive my odd voice. I'm feeling just a teensy bit under the weather, but the show must go on. So let me go ahead and introduce you to my two fine co-hosts. My first co-host is the 2009 National Collegiate Hucklepuck Champion.
I to be honest with you, the 2009 is a little late.
I was giving you the benefit of the doubt.
Fair enough.
And be sure to follow my second co-host for tips on hair straighteners and Buffalo Bill cosplay.
Oh, I should never have said anything.
Please, everyone, say hello to Ryan Payne, a.k.a. Retro Game Brews, and the one and only Donnie G.
Hello, everyone.
Ryan, was that trophy like a gold jockstrap that you won for being the Hucklepuck champion?
You know what? I'm going to leave this one up to your imagination because I feel like if I tell you what it really was, that just ruins it for you. So yes, the answer is yes.
It was a bronze set of balls, wasn't it?
But no, bronze is what you got if you were third place. He won.
Right. So
okay.
now I was rocking truck nuts long before anybody else.
Long before they were redneck cool.
All right, let's get the show started with our reviews, reactions, and requests. Astrophis says, sitting at Dunkin' waiting for my wife to get her nails painted and listening to the podcast. Not gonna lie, new listener, but great show. Bakuil says, plenty of great takes in episode 62. Ryan picked the best villain turned hero. Blue, you had the best idea for a new Castlevania. And Donnie, you were right about the releases this week. Shows why together, you're the best gamer. The three of us combine like a transformer to form the ultimate gamer.
I was just going to say that. We're like a Voltron or something.
And I had to think very carefully how I was going to phrase that. And finally, Burko said, this episode should have been called Jesus, Take the Wheel.
Jesus, take the wheel.
Every time I drive, man.
He was referring to the fact that Mario Kart has, was it driving assist on it?
Yeah, like safety steering.
Right. I didn't get that at first, so I thought he was just like, this episode was crazy.
It went off the rails a bit,
Yeah.
but, not bad.
But I was like, that's par for the course, man. And now it's time for the
Yo, P to the O to the L to the L, the very important poem.
Word to Your Mother.
Yes!
Oh, way!
Spaghetti!
That was freaking awesome. I think we should just stop doing the very important poll from now on because nobody's ever going to be able to top that.
No, what? How? I've got so many questions.
And you know what? Again, I'm going to leave it up to your imagination. There are no answers this time.
All right, keep your secrets.
He's fucking Gandalf. That's fucking great.
3 days later.
You're going to be all right, Donnie?
That was great. That was great. Go, and I like she said it so softly to where it sounded like Frodo. Go ahead, keep your secrets. Okay.
Thank you. No autographs, please.
All right, so every Monday on Twitter, we post our VIP or very important poll. If you'd like to participate, follow us on Twitter at GamersWeekPC. This question this week was, what video game character are you 100% confident you could beat up in a fight? So coming in third place was Jigglypuff at 13.7%. Second place was Bubsy the Bobcat at 21.3%. And taking it this week is our French friend, Glass Joe, at 52.5%. But 12.6% of you said other. So let's look at some of the comments from the poll.
Did Glass Joe take it on the chin this week?
He took it on the chin. I thought that was funny. So, wasn't hitting for Blue, but it killed with me. So good job. So Pen Magnet 27 said, I could take a Goomba, no problem. We'll probably be able to make a 35-yard field goal with one. Pew!
That's what a Goomba field goal sounds like.
It does. It's because it's, if you don't kick it right, it's not very aerodynamic, so there comes this, like a whistle sound. It's crazy. Anyway, Auntie's Glitches said, I say cool spot. All I have to do is beat him up with a few years till he's not relevant. Then I have won. Pathfinder Cast says, Minecraft Pig. It's a family rule. We're not allowed to kill the chickens. October FN Raven said, Magikarp. But even then, it might be close. And lastly, JCB64 said, I'd bare knuckle box Bubsy for free.
Why does everybody want to beat up Bubsy?
Because it's Bubsy.
I mean, okay, but is Bubsy really that annoying?
Uh-huh.
Okay, all right.
So, Dottie, why don't we start with you?
I mean, the world is your oyster when talking about beating up fictional characters. Everybody thinks that they're a badass and whatnot. There are a lot of different video game characters that I think I could beat up. But, this week I went a different approach. As I was staring over at my my game shelf, and I was like, man, which one would be a great answer? Would it be Toe Jam from Toe Jam and Earl? Like, no, those guys are fun. I feel like I could kick it with those guys. Is it Wolverine from X-Men's Revenge or the Arcade's Revenge? Like, no, I'd probably get my ass kicked on that one. And there she was, staring at me right in the face. Vanna White from Wheel of Fortune N64. And I'm like, you know what? I think I could take her in a fight. And I'm not going to say beat her up. No, let's not go that route. I think I could take her in a fight. But then again, I'm probably disillusioned here. She probably knows jujitsu.
I was going to say.
Probably. She walks around forever in those heels. She's probably got legs of steel, and she's going to kickbox you into oblivion.
Just like our podcast host, Ryan, she's got some badass calves. And if I go up and try to put a finger on her, I would probably find my arm twisted behind my back and my shorts full of poop. So I'd like to say I could take Vanna White in a fight, but not 100% confident there.
But at least you would be checking something off from your kink bingo for you.
Right.
I do have a Wheel of Fortune fetish. Yes, I
do. Blue, what about you?
So I went with a video game character that I have hated for nearly 2 decades. I am, of course, talking about Ashley Graham, the worst escort mission ever from Resident Evil 4. Ashley, she's not just useless. She's worse than useless. She's a straight up liability. She will get you killed so fast. And of course, she's got that annoying yell, Leon! Leon! Help!
Leon!
Thank you. You do it way better. And, there were definitely times you lose the game and have to start over. It's the same as dying if she dies. But there were definitely times I was just so fed up with her constantly needing rescued, constantly getting in the way, constantly getting injured, that I just let the zombie horde kind of carry her off. I'd mute the TV and watch them walk away with her and just kind of wave slowly, bye, Ashley. And then I'd go get a snack.
Save the dog, kill the human.
Yep.
That's my model for life, man.
Ashley Graham has not one redeemable characteristic in the entire game. So, yeah, sorry. It's a survival of the fittest when the zombies come.
I will soon find that out myself when I start my Resident Evil 4 playthrough.
No way. You're really going to play it?
I feel like it's time for me to dive back in and play this game and really, truly experience it now that I really prefer these types of controls in those types of games.
Can we put a sound over top of Donnie declaring that he's going to play this as the beginning of Jurassic Park? That
Welcome to Resident Evil 4.
So what about you, Ryan?
So I'm going to go again. I think the same route that you went, Blue, with the character that I've hated for many, many, many years. And considering I'm very good at swimming and that I cannot stand this character at all, we're going to go with Slippy Toad on this one. I hate Slippy Toad. He is so annoying. He is useless. And he is constantly like, hey, Fox, I need help. Help me, Fox.
Fox, get this guy off me.
It's like, oh my God, stop. I'm busy. Can't you see I'm busy? Learn how to fly, you f***ing toad. So at the end of the day, I mean, yes, he does have mechanical legs, but you've seen the calves. I think we're good with that one. And if he's in the water, boom, I got that one too. So Slippy Toad, he's going down. I'm going to punch him in his stupid face. Sorry, that got a little dark there for a second.
All right, let's move on to our patron shoutouts.
We couldn't do what we do without the help of our gorgeous patrons. Here are the generous folks supporting Gamers Week on Patreon. BNT Zillaguy, Geek With That, Johnny Boombots, Crunchy Kong, Surf Snacks, Frank Grande, Love Retro BTW, Steven Sand, Ramboski, Terry Kinnair, Ducks in Disguise, Jim and Colleen, Games with Coffee, Hybrid Divide, You Fall Before Me, Davey PGH, the Red Ox PDX family, including Shannon and Luke, Zach, huge thanks. Number 1 Blue Sick Voice fan, Random Retro Dude, Baby Farts McGee Zach, Rai's Secret Best Friend, Mega Retro Man, Gamatroid, Emo-esque, Bill Tucker, The Real Retro Game Brews, Fruitcake's number 1 Stan, Ducks with Thick Thighs, The Wizard of Zardoz, Bops and Dugnut, and Great Siaman 81. If you like what you hear today, and we really hope you do, please consider joining us on Patreon. Your support helps cover the cost of producing the show, as well as other cool stuff we'll be doing like prizes and giveaways. You'll also gain access to our weekly patron-only bonus cast called Gamers Week Uncut, Patrons with Benefits. Visit patreon.com/gamersweek or follow the link in the show notes to learn more. And guess what? Our patrons have a chance to win a PSP this week. So if you're on the fence about becoming a patron, just know that we do give back to our patrons.
And I'm not jealous at all. Not jealous, not even a little bit. I'm not sitting there going, I wish I was a patron. I haven't thought about maybe signing up with a different account as a patron. I haven't done that, I swear.
Insert Russell Crowe meme here.
All right, let's move on to our headlines. And our headline segment is, of course, proudly sponsored by the Retro Game Club podcast. It's a fantastic, family-friendly retro gaming podcast. In each episode, Rob and Hugh pick 2 games to play and discuss, as well as news, interviews, and other topics. Right now, they're discussing the RoboCop episode of the 90s game show Video Power. Visit them at retrogameclub.net or follow the link in the show notes.
I'm not familiar with this particular episode, but Video Power was a great show. I so wanted to do that end part where they get to run through all the different aisles of like a video game store and like stick games to them. Yep. The only thing that bothers me is watching this as an adult is how the guy treats the games after the kids slide down the slide. He's like, oh, here's this one, Chuck.
Yeah, just he puts it over his shoulder and stuff.
Look, be careful with that, man. I mean, he already crushed it sliding down the slide, for crying out loud. Let's add more damage to this thing. God, respect the games, man. All right, first up from MSN. Nintendo Wii U Time Bomb is killing consoles if you don't play them regularly. It's recently been discovered that leaving the Wii U unattended for too long can wind up bricking the console, turning it into nothing more than an oversized paperweight. Some may question why you bother playing the Wii U nowadays. Oh, that hurts. Especially since a lot of its best titles have been since ported to the Switch. However, there remain a handful of exclusives you can't play anywhere else, such as Party Game, Nintendo Land, and Xenoblade Chronicles X. Plus, many retro games are only available via the Wii U's eShop, which is shutting down at the end of the month. A report by Xputer explains how multiple owners have reported encountering the same issue and error code 160-0103. Nintendo's own support website says that this means that the system's version is either isn't up to date or has been corrupted. Apparently, none of the Nintendo suggestions for fixing the issue have worked, and the Wii U owners swear that their consoles haven't been modded or hacked by a third party. Factory resets reportedly don't work either, and according to one NeoGAF's post, keeping the Wii U safe and secure in its box won't protect it. It seems the only way to prevent this is to just turn on the Wii U every once in a while. This isn't the first time something like this has happened with older consoles. A couple years ago, it was discovered that the PlayStation 4 would no longer be able to play games once its internal clock battery ran out. Fortunately, Sony issued an update that seemed to resolve the issue, but it's very unlikely Nintendo will offer anything similar to save the Wii U. Nintendo has been accused of not caring about video game preservation, something that's hard to deny considering the aforementioned Wii U eShop shutdown. I haven't turned mine on to check.
You should probably do that. We'll pause here if you want to run and turn it on.
No, then I'll be mad for the rest of the podcast if it doesn't work. So let's save
All
this.
right.
My kids actually still play their Wii U. Every once in a while, they'll turn it on. And I even asked, like, I saw that today, and I was like, you still play the Wii U, right? He's like, oh, yeah, we do it every occasionally. I'm like, okay, good. But this is playing into the whole thing where Nintendo doesn't care about games preservation. The Wii U is just the previous console. So it blows my mind that they have completely moved on from this console. Everybody bought this console, right? It wasn't as popular, but a lot of people spent their hard-earned money for it. Now you're saying you don't want to do anything to fix this issue. And I don't even know, like, is this something they would have known about at some point and covered it up? Is this something they just are now finding out about with people saying, like, oh, my system is bricked, it's not turning on? It's a move, in my opinion, for Nintendo to just say, whatever, it's an old console, we don't care about it, buy our new stuff.
And, they have done a whole lot to try to get people to forget about the Wii U. With all the games that they ported over, there's only a few, like they pointed out, that are available strictly through the Wii U. And it's almost like it's an embarrassment for them. They just don't want you to remember that, right? They bring back things like Virtual Boy XS in certain sections, but the Wii U, that's the console we want to forget about. It just seems like, how Disney has certain IPs that they want to forget about.
What IPs could those be?
I'm not going to get into that. Okay, great. But it's disappointing. There are definitely people who still love and play their Wii U. Now, granted, if you're playing it more often, it's not going to happen to you. But as someone who is a collector of that kind of stuff, I don't play every console all the time. So why should I get punished for paying for this system and not being able to use it? That's just insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's ridiculous to think that as collectors of systems and games that you might have to start turning on your old consoles to your to-do list. Like, so many times a year, you got to change the air filters in your house, and you got to rotate your tires, and you got to turn on the Wii U, like all this ridiculous maintenance stuff that you really shouldn't have to do and is completely unprecedented. Aside from, it says this little issue about the PS4, but I mean, what about people who get into the Wii U late? What about people who want to buy them, complete in box? How do you know any of them still work? And what does this say about the future of the Switch and anything that comes after the Switch? Is there going to come a point when they're just done supporting the Switch and they don't care if it bricks or not? It really calls into question whether Nintendo is a company that is going to be worth collecting for much longer.
I think one of the things that you're going to run into is that this is probably going to increase the piracy when it comes to the Wii U stuff. As far as ROMs and stuff are concerned, people are going to download it more. And at the end of the day, that probably spills over into modern consoles and things like that. So all of a sudden you've created this situation where people want to pirate your stuff. They're probably not just going to stop at the Wii U. So they've created a pretty difficult situation for themselves if they're not willing to at least address it. And my guess is that eventually somebody's going to figure out a patch to fix it. But in the interim, I have no problem if the thing doesn't work, download all the games you got on your CDs and put them to something else. Do it.
What's a CD?
Do you prefer tapes or CDs?
8 tracks. All right, up next from IGN, the United Nations is about to host its first ever video games event. The event comes as part of the annual Games for Change Festival, an annual event hosted by the nonprofit Games for Change that highlights games, technology, and immersive experiences with the intention of driving real-world change, innovation, and social good. This year's conference includes 2 new items, one being the first ever Games and Sustainable Development Goals Summit at the UN headquarters in New York City, marking the first time the games industry has convened at the UN. The event is a half-day-long affair that will bring together leaders from the games industry, policy media, nonprofits, and others to discuss how games and XR technology can support United Nations goals, including education, equality, justice, climate action, and sustainable cities and communities. The event is by invitation only and will include speakers, case studies, panels, and a games arcade. We need to be there, UN. Just let you know.
I'm sure our invitation is lost in the mail.
In addition, Games for Change will host the Games for Change Next Gen Fest, a games festival for students ages 13 through 18 to connect with industry professionals, learn design and coding skills, and participate in workshops, meet and greets, and other activities. The festival is geared towards helping youth become responsible creators and players of games with a positive social impact. Games for Change itself is a nonprofit started in 2004 with the aim of bringing together tech and games companies, nonprofits, foundations, and government agencies to put on events and programs that center games as an avenue for social transformation. Alongside the festival and other activities, it runs an annual STEM competition to teach students about game design and programming, and curates a game directory of titles that engage contemporary social issues in a meaningful way.
So I'm envisioning, because it's only 13 to 18, Donnie's going to show up like cleanly shaved, right, with like some really modern clothing, be like, "Hello, fellow kids." Man, I could really go for a glizzy, no cap.
Glizzy! Now, you say modern clothing. I just read the other day that cargo shorts are back in style. I never got rid of mine, so I'm good.
So there you go. Just shave your hair into a mullet, wear your cargo shorts, you're good to go. What year is it?
What year is it?
So I think we need to take a moment and realize what is happening here. Because last week we talked about the IOC, the Olympic Committee, is inviting video games into the Olympics. And now we're seeing that video games are taking place as part of a UN event. Up until now, video games have been the pariah of society. What every ill of our communities is blamed on, whether it's violence or kids doing poorly in schools or whatever is the problem du jour, they can be blamed on video games. But now they're being raised up by all of these governing bodies of these different things, trying to connect with the youth of the world. It's really, really interesting to watch, even if this article itself is pretty boring.
Make a good point. So I guess what I really need to do is just quit playing video games because it's no longer cool. Because now everybody wants to have a piece of the pie. It's no longer edgy and fun. And you know what? I don't have to defend video games anymore. That's boring. Done. I am done.
It has jumped the shark.
It has jumped the shark. I just find it interesting that the UN was like, you know what we need? We need video games. Nothing has said to me the UN would be like an organization that would see video games as being anything that was within their privy whatsoever. And for them to be able to admit that it's educational, that it has potential aspects, I think it said, in equality, justice, climate action, and sustainable cities and communities. So finally you admit that this isn't like the worst thing that's ever existed. Great.
Right.
Video games are bad, okay?
And you know what? The thing is, it found its way into politics, and that's where it started. When it comes to the American news media from gaming, and that started back in the freaking 90s, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
So there's precedence there.
And I got to be honest, this title or this article did not go where I thought it was going to go. I thought it was going to be an all-out Call of Duty brawl or playing Fortnite or Splatoon or whatever. Get splatted, sucker! Something like that.
That's what happened when NATO decides to host their own gaming event. They're like, all right, we're finally going to end this. You know what? This is going to be like rollerball. Rather than fighting wars, we're gonna fight Call of Duty against each other. We'll fix it.
Yep.
Until somebody gets teabagged and then it's all over.
Imagine the history. You're like, so why did that war start?
All right, next up from Eurogamer, Blumhouse is turning Dead by Daylight into a movie.
Squee!
Blumhouse, the horror-focused movie production company behind the likes of Paranormal Activity, Sinister, Insidious, and Get Out, is adapting Dead by Daylight into a film. The project is being developed in conjunction with Dead by Daylight studio Behavior Interactive and Atomic Monster, the production company run by prominent horror director James Wan, with the latter calling the game's incredible environment teeming with atmosphere and terrifying villains perfect for a scary cinematic adaptation. There's no writer or director attached to the adaptation yet. The companies are commencing their search for both. But Blumhouse says it's imperative we find someone who appreciates and loves the world as much as we do to help us bring the game to the big screen. Dead by Daylight launched its brand of asymmetrical multiplayer horror, which sees 4 survivors attempting to escape a powerful killer back in 2016, and the game's been played by over 50 million people since then. It's been successful enough that Behavior Interactive has been able to incorporate some of cinema's most iconic horror villains into the experience along the way, including Halloween's Michael Myers, Nightmare on Elm Street's Freddy Krueger, Texas Chainsaw Massacre's Leatherface, Saw's Amanda Young, and Scream's Ghostface. Today's news follows Blumhouse's announcement it's moving into the world of video games publishing and will partner with independent game developers to produce and publish original horror-themed games for console, PC, and mobile audiences.
So, Donnie, last time we talked about Blumhouse, you had admitted that you haven't seen Get Out. Have you remedied that problem?
No, I haven't seen that at all. But Blumhouse with their Halloween remakes, or the new subsequent sequels, those were good, except for the last one sucked. We don't ever want to talk about that one again. A Dead by Daylight movie. I saw this and yes. I was like, whoa, the possibilities are endless. Now, I know that they're probably not going to be able to get to some of the more popular IPs that they licensed out, like the Saw, the pig from the Saw, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, et cetera, et cetera. They're not going to be able to get those. But if you have some of the initial killers from this game, like the Hag, the Wraith, the Trapper, the Nurse, and the Doctor, and the Huntress, like, holy crap, the possibilities are endless for the story. And I got to say, it's probably going to be where some of these characters are just like, or some of the survivors are sucked in, so to speak, suck mechanic, into this world where all of these villains live, or these killers live. I'm eager as hell to see how this plays out.
I am too, because I think that it's like this opportunity to have almost like a boss run in a video game.
Of course.
Now on screen, where you're interacting with all of these famous and really intricate killers that are going to be in this, and that just how people have to work together. The whole hook part to it, I think, would be kind of unique, watching somebody get hooked and then taking them off of it. Like, there's that gory piece to it as well.
Right.
And watching them just walk it off and keep going. That's
exactly.
what I've always wondered about.
And then they're at the gate and teabagging with the flashlight and everything, the killer, like, come on, click, 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 click.
The end of it just goes, GG easy.
Yeah, GG easy. That's what you see at the end of the credits.
The only one I'm not looking forward to, as far as a mechanic is concerned, is let's just throw a pallet down.
You're right. Like, what am I going to do? Go around the pallet? No, you just lift it up and push it out of the way.
That would be a really funny gag, though, for them to be walking by a pallet and somebody's like, throw it in the way. Like, what would that do?
Right. Yeah.
Well, this movie will need a couple things to succeed. One, it's going to need fan service for those kind of moments, like you said, those kind of moments where these 50 million people will say, I understand that reference about the palette. It's also going to have a kind of a Mortal Kombat-y type challenge, because as you were listing off all the killers, fans of this game are going to expect that each of those killers are going to have a moment, right?
Right.
And so you're going to need to come up with some really interesting chase scenes. You're going to need to come up with some really gory kills to make sure that every killer gets to shine in the spotlight. I think that the story, as long as you just don't insult people's intelligence, it doesn't matter too much what it is. Just make it at least quasi-believable within this world building.
And I think you're right. I think really the syndrome is probably more like Street Fighter, where they just try to throw in as many characters as possible to get into there. And you went like, wait, that was E Honda? Okay, I guess.
Right, exactly. Or like the new Mortal Kombat movie, where they tried to, like, they had the core characters that were in the movie, and then they tried to throw in some side ones who just didn't have any chance to shine at all. They just got killed immediately. It's like, well, why did you bring them here if that's all they were here for? So...
Right. And making one person who's nobody's ever heard of as the protagonist of the movie, like that was a stretch.
Well, it was a bold choice to bring in audiences who didn't know anything about the lore of Mortal Kombat, so they could follow. He's essentially an audience surrogate. And then you follow along with him to learn what Mortal Kombat is, in case you didn't know. And there might probably be some of that here with the Dead by Daylight movie, but I think this would be a really fun challenge. It would be a really fun script to write, even though I don't know anything hardly about this game. I've only watched Donnie play it a few times.
The only thing I'm thinking too, like, what would be boring is just a scene of them fixing generators.
I don't think it's going to be like that where they're sitting around for like, like a minute, just like, all right. We're just going to keep pumping. Bam, it explodes. Now, I guarantee you, they're going to go and try and like jumpstart this generator, and it's going to explode, and that's going to send the killer. I put a stamp on it. That's going to happen.
You heard it here first, folks.
Right. I mean, it's a pretty simple game. There's only so many things you can really put in the script.
Right. The one thing that I do like about Dead by Daylight, though, is there's a lot of different, unique atmospheres to play in. So all the different maps and stuff are pretty cool. So I think that, if you made it part of a city where they had to escape from, and every single setting is a different killer or a different part of it, that the killer really matches up with that. So if you're in that creepy hospital, the nurse shows up or something like that, that would be fun. The only thing is I'm trying to imagine 90 minutes of that. It seems like the Running Man, maybe, I guess.
Yeah. It's like Running Man meets the Squid Game.
There you go.
Right, yeah. I mean, pacing will have to be taken into consideration, and 90 minutes is right. You really shouldn't try to stretch this to 2 hours and beyond, because there's not enough story. It would just be, kill shot after kill shot. But
what's cool about it, though, is that, even if you don't include all of the killers that are in Dead by Daylight now, you could certainly make sequels for this and just continually add as you go along. So there's definitely some longevity that you could bring to this IP.
I'm interested to see what they do and how they do it. And Blue, you have so many great ideas. Why aren't you writing this script?
Because I don't play the game.
You don't have to play the game. Just watch some video.
I really do think it would be super fun to write. Maybe you and I could write it together, and you could tell me all the things that are important to the game, and then I'll get into a script.
Come on. They made the Super Mario Brothers movie without playing the games. You can do it.
And you saw what happened. How we suffered for it.
But it's funny that I'm excited about a video game adaptation to a movie because it's so simple. I don't think you could really f it up that much.
Oh no! Don't do that. No. You could definitely f it up that much.
Yeah, March 8th, 10/26. That was the moment that Ryan ruined the Dead by Daylight movie adaptation.
Send me all your hate mail.
Yep. All right, let's move on to our top 3 new releases.
Clash, Artifacts of Chaos. PS5, Xbox Series XS, Xbox One, PC. Hunted by mercenaries of an enemy with untold power, the fighter Pseudo and the creature under his protection begin a perilous quest to the edges of strange lands. Your fists and speed are your greatest weapons. Attack, dodge, stun, block, counter a parry to land a special attack, switch to first-person view to perform unique techniques. Each time, it's up to you to seize the occasion to achieve victory and avoid mistakes that could quickly prove fatal. Oni, Road to the Mightiest Oni. PS5, PS4, Switch, PC. Break your enemy's souls to reclaim your pride. On Kasejimi, a demon warrior Kuta and his partner Kazumori challenge these souls to a trial, all in order to defeat Momotaro, who is both human and evil monster. A tale of sky and wind as they embark upon an island quest. Enjoy an all-new unique co-op action experience by playing both Kutu and Kazumaru at the same time. DC's Justice League Cosmic Chaos. PS5, Xbox Series XS, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Unite against chaos in an all-new open-world adventure where the Justice League go head-to-head with Mr. Mixaplik, a powerful prankster from the 5th dimension. I know I might have mispronounced that. Don't at me.
I'm glad this wasn't me, because I was looking at that. I was like, that is not a word.
Suit up as Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman and go face off against some of the most powerful supervillains in the DC universe, including Bizarro, Starro the Conqueror, Clayface, and many more in an epic battle to bring peace to Happy Harbor. Based on these descriptions this week, Ryan, what's your choice?
So one of the things I noticed about the first game that we talked about, Clash Artifacts of Chaos, is that your character has a little friend that's with you while you go through your perilous quests. to the edge of strange land, and he looks like a soot sprite from Spirited Away. Mm-hmm. And that instantly makes me want to play this game.
That's it. That's all it took. Huh?
That's all it took. I am a huge fan of Spirited Away. I love that movie. I was introduced to it, a few years ago, and I love the soot sprites. And of course, having your own would be huge for me. So I'm not even going to talk about the other games because I'm already sold. I don't have to look.
But it's your soot.
Exactly.
Blue, what about you? What strikes your fancy?
So, gonna skip DC's Justice League because not into superheroes. Gonna skip Oni because not into co-op, which leaves me with Clash Artifacts of Chaos. And I watched the trailer for this game, and I was basically like that gif of the lady who's trying kombucha for the first time.
Okay.
Where it's like, oh God, no. Well, maybe. No. Yeah, I like it. No.
Yeah.
Because the art style of this game is so freaking weird. I don't know if you guys looked at it, but every character looks like some kind of horrible, deformed, like nightmare monster.
Right.
But they're playing this story out like it's very serious and very emotional, but there's these horrible, like Nightmare Before Christmas on an acid trip creatures that are populating this world. So I'm going to choose that one based solely on the fact that the art style simultaneously turns me off and yet is drawing me in. So maybe I need to spend more time with it to see if I can finally settle on whether I like it or not.
It's like a car crash. You just can't look away.
Right, basically. So what about you, Donnie?
I have to be in agreement with you guys this week. Justice League Cosmic Chaos, it looks cute and everything, but I don't know. It doesn't look appealing to me. Like the gameplay looks kind of like what you would have with Lego superheroes, along with like the Rise of the Midnight Suns, like that type of crossover game. And it seems okay, but it looks a little bit cartoonish and childish for me. Oni Road to the Mightiest, the art style looks pleasing. I saw the gameplay, but the thing that's turning me off is, like Blue said, it's co-op. I'm passing on that one and going with Clash Artifacts of Chaos. The game looks great. Like Blue said, it's nightmare fuel a little bit, a teensy bit. The gameplay looks good. It's a third-person beat-em-up where you're over the shoulder, over the back shoulder, almost like you would expect a God of War or Assassin's Creed to be. But just this art style is really, really blowing my mind. So my pick this week, along with everybody else's, is Clash Artifacts of Chaos.
Nice.
So I did include, by the way, just a real quick YouTube link to how to pronounce that name.
Mixie Splitlick.
Yep, I think you're spot on.
Good to know.
Look at that.
Look at that. People helping people.
It's a beautiful thing.
I like it.
All right, let's move on to our main topic for the night from NBC News, the best video games for beginners and non-gamers in 2023. Video games can transport us into fantasy worlds, allowing us to pretend we're professional athletes, give us puzzles to solve, walk us through theatrical stories, and more. If you're a new gamer, you'll quickly learn that video games offer varying levels of difficulty. Some video games are suitable for anyone to play, while others require skill that comes with lots of experience. To help you find the best video games for beginners, we rounded up a handful of select staff favorites across genres and types. Some are mobile games you can play on your phone, while others require a compatible handheld gaming system or game console.
All right, first up for the filthy casuals out there.
I like it.
What Remains of Edith Finch? What Remains of Edith Finch is a first-perspective story-based game. As Edith, players explore her home and attempt to figure out why she's the last living person in her family. Each story allows players to experience the life of a new family member on the day of their death. The storyline of What Remains of Edith Finch is gripping and feels like watching an interactive movie. And it's great for beginners since there aren't any complicated button combinations or challenges. It's really more of uncovering the story of a cursed family.
Animal Crossing: New Horizons. Animal Crossing's cuteness is only part of its appeal. While playing, you're able to develop your own island among animal neighbors, sell fruit or fish, and use what you earn to buy new outfits, make updates to your home, and upgrade the island by building bridges and staircases. Additionally, the game runs on a real clock, so the seasons change as they do in the real world, making way for lots of seasonal fun like Carnival and summer fireworks shows. Plus, on the Switch version, you can play with people all over the world and visit your friends' islands.
Next up is The Last of Us Part 1. The Last of Us follows characters Joel and Ellie as they fight to survive in an apocalyptic United States where cannibalistic creatures lurk. The Last of Us is more challenging than our other recommendations. It has lots of quick action moments and shooting mechanics, but is still well worth your time.
Next up is Mario Tennis Aces. Mario Tennis Aces allows you to play single or double tennis matches as over 20 different characters. The story aspect of the game starts off very basic and becomes gradually more challenging. Mario Tennis Aces also does a great job of walking through different techniques so that you can school all of your friends when you play in a multiplayer match.
Untitled Goose Game. This puzzle stealth game has you controlling a horrible goose with a mischief-filled to-do list. It's very easy to control, has a cute art style, hilarious music, and you can even play it with a friend. It's pretty short, but attempting to steal a rake from a gardener or lock someone out of their house as a goose is funny and surprisingly challenging.
Next is Cooking Mama Let's Cook. While the Nintendo DS is no longer made, you can now play the game on your mobile devices. Cooking Mama is easy to follow and walks you through making cool recipes. Serve dishes to your restaurant customers and also harvest food, raise animals, and compete in weekly events.
I refuse to do the next one.
You have to.
Oh, you have to.
Journalistic integrity.
Fine. Yeah. Candy Crush. In Candy Crush, you have to line up 3 or more of the same candies next to each other, eliminating those candies and making room for more. Each level of the game has different goals for you to have to reach in order to move up. I love playing Candy Crush when I need to fill time, like when waiting for the bus to come, or when this is the person writing it. It's just clearly so this doesn't get taken out of context.
Ryan thinks it's really important that you know this.
Or when
Ryan rides the bus.
Or when I need a brain break after a long day. It's very engaging due to the challenge, colors, and animations, and you feel accomplished as you reach new levels and catch up on the little tricks here and there.
I'm glad you bit down on the ball gag and powered through that one.
You can call me the Gimp.
Gimp's sleeping.
With his name RGB, that's what the G stands for.
Retro Gimp Bruce.
Well done. Well done.
Hidden Folks. Hidden Folks is a Where's Waldo taken to the next level. It's a hidden object game with dozens of incredibly detailed levels where you can interact with each scene by shaking trees, digging holes, unfurling tents, and much more. Also, all the sounds are done by the solo developer, leading to a lot of funny mouth noises for things like zippers, zip, umbrellas, whoop, campfires, and cars.
We'll just skip over that one.
If my campfire ever made that sound, I'd be very, very concerned.
All right, it's lit.
Man, this is not relaxing.
So if your campfire is freaking you out, do you put it out or do you add more fire?
Oh, good question.
As a DPS, I add more fire.
Touche. So, thoughts on this list? I think because all of us have been gaming basically for our entire lives. So it's odd to think that there are still people out there who maybe have never played games. Like, especially if you're not talking kids, like picking games for kids, that's a different challenge. If you're talking about if you have friends who don't play games, how could you introduce them into gaming? So you see this list is made primarily of casual games, story games, and then The Last of Us Part 1, which is just a weird one that somebody stuck in there, I think, because they're an Uber fan, not because it actually is appropriate for beginners.
Resident Evil Part 8. We'll just throw that one in there.
Right.
Super Meat Boy.
Oh, God.
Battle Kid.
Exactly.
What do you guys think? What games would you recommend if you had a friend who was interested in getting into gaming but had never played?
I don't understand the Mario Tennis Aces when you have the Switch Sports.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, actually.
You're segregating it to one specific sport. Why not just incorporate all the sports that Switch Sports has?
You nailed it, I think, with Switch Sports. That's a game that's easily accessible. If you really want to get into getting better at it, you can go to like ranked matches. But before that, you don't really have to necessarily push yourself. I think that it's, as long as you have obviously the mobility to play it, it's a fairly easy game and it's fun.
I mean, there's a reason the Wii sold like gangbusters, because it had those motion controls,
Right.
which let people who weren't gamers find a way to connect with the games, because you didn't have to worry about controls. You just swing the thing. So yeah, that makes sense. You heard me. It's accessible to everybody.
I do think they nailed it, though, with Animal Crossing New Horizons. That was the pandemic game, and I think it brought a lot of people into purchasing a Switch and getting into gaming. And you're right, it is certainly a game that doesn't take a whole lot of effort on your side in order to have some fun with it. Of course, there are people who are really into the game, and for a while they were posting on Twitter like, hey, does anybody have any bells that I can trade with? And you can certainly get that far into the game, or if not, just to enjoy the change of seasons and you never pay off your debt, which is also very true to life. So, yeah.
What is it that defines a game? What is a game?
I don't understand the question.
What is a game to you? What is the meaning of a game?
There's a challenge to overcome.
Okay.
Yeah. Even if it's just selling enough fish to build a staircase.
And you're right. Each one of these games has a challenge that needs to be overcome. And in my opinion, that's the definition of a game. So in all fairness, I think that they have a very comprehensive list of quote unquote games that are easily playable for the beginner who's never played a game before. You know, we had that back in the day with the Atari, like with Pong, you know, something rudimentary as Pong, where the game is to get that little blip past your opponent's paddle, and then you score a point and get so many different points, and you win. These are just that on a different level, a more polished level with their mechanics and their environments and what you need to do inside of them. So as much as I could argue that some of these games need to be replaced out, like with Mario Tennis Aces, I feel like this list is valid.
I agree, but is there anything that you would add to the list if you were working for NBC News?
I know I'd take Candy Crush off.
Hater.
Yeah, exactly, hater. But I also think it fulfills like the very most basic definition of a game, because you're not really doing anything. You're just matching three. Like that's it. You just do that over and over and over again.
But Tetris, would you put it in the same vein as Tetris then?
No, because Tetris is so much more challenging.
Yeah, depending on the level that you start in.
Yeah, there's speed that's involved. There's different strategies based on the types of pieces that you're given. I mean, Donnie could do a seminar on it better than me, but Candy Crush is just purely like a mind-numbing time waster. And so in that sense, I think it could easily be replaced for something else. And I know when I get together with my family and people express interest in playing a game, but I'm the only one in my family who games. So they're looking to me, be like, what should we play? I either break out something like Mario Party, which the whole family can enjoy, but sometimes it's a little difficult for my parents trying to figure out the controls.
Hey, Dad, let's play Dead by Daylight. You be the killer.
Right.
I don't know what I'm doing.
But this past summer, when everybody got together, we played Overcooked. It was
Great
a
game.
blast. And it was a great way to get the family together and everybody play a game. And it was simple enough that everybody could follow along. And we had a good time.
Were you guys still talking to each other afterwards?
Yes, we were, unlike with Mario Party.
Oh, got competitive. I love it.
Now, what about something like Among Us? Would that be an applicable game on this list?
I think so. It's relatively simple. There are obviously some strategies and things like that make the game a lot more challenging if you really want to. But to get the core of the game, it only takes you a couple times to play through, a few rounds until you've got it down pat. But that's also another game that could lead to some hurt feelings. So play it with people that you're gonna, that you'll talk to afterwards.
Oh yeah. This is a classic Mario Party type situation.
Uno.
Yep. But I think like Among Us and what's the other one? Fall Guys. I think Fall Guys could actually have a spot on here
Fall Guys
too.
is difficult though. It's the platforming challenges on Fall Guys are, if you don't know what you're doing, if you've never played platforms before,
it's an obstacle course.
The thing is, though, I think it can be frustrating for somebody who isn't used to platforming. I would agree with that.
I mean, I find it frustrating as somebody who is used to platforming because the little beans move like a snail.
And like that was my thought too. Like, okay, well, Splatoon 3 would be an example, but to your point, if this is truly somebody who's a beginner or a non-gamer, the mechanics of that, it can be pretty difficult. For me, since I've played a bunch of it, it's like, oh, this is simple. This is easy. Mm-hmm. It's really not. And especially if you decide that you want to go and play it online against other people.
Yeah. I remember one time sitting down with one of my sister's friends. We were all going to play Mario Kart. She had never played. I was like, oh, it's easy. You just do this and this and this. And then I thought about it. And this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And she's just kind of looking at me with her eyes glazed over. I was like, okay, maybe it's not so easy.
And now you've turned this into a Rubik's Cube full of instructions.
Yeah. The most simple driving game that I could figure would probably be Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, because you can put it on 50 cc's, you can hook them up with the safe steering, and they really can't fail. That's
not simple at all. Are you kidding me?
What? Why not? The game practically drives for you.
No. When you start incorporating shortcuts and drift drafting,
we're talking beginners.
Oh my God. Is Mario Kart 8 like really that forgiving for beginners?
Yeah, if you put it on 50 cc with the safe steering.
I don't believe you. I'm Ron Burgundying this. I don't believe you because of the amount of items that you can use. Because if I'm a new player and I'm going into Mario Kart 8 and I get lightning struck and then I get hit with a freaking green shell and then I get hit with a red shell and then I get ink in my face, I'm going to get pissed. I'm going to break my controller and I'm just going to say, screw this. I'm not playing this ever again.
Okay, well, Bill Tucker of Gamer Looks at 40. I remember one time he posted or was talking about his, I think, forgive me, Bill, if I get this wrong, but I think it was like his 4-year-old who was playing Mario Kart 8. You don't have to play online. You can just do the cup with the easy comm. 50 cc, safe steering. And he said that at one point his kid wandered away from the game and then like did something else and then came back and the game didn't skip a beat. It was basically driving for him because the safe steering doesn't allow you to go off the track.
Okay.
And you have auto accelerate. So it dumbs it down as much as it possibly can, that if you occasionally give an input on the joystick, it will move. But you really wouldn't have to do anything. And eventually the cart would cross the finish line. And that was great for his 4-year-old.
I didn't know that. I am going off of my experience with playing with you.
Because we threw you in with the sharks.
And it's constant green shell sniper, up my butt, off my side. I'm getting hit in the air by stuff I don't even see. I'm wondering, like, I'm questioning my sanity whenever I play this damn game. And to hear you say that, like, oh yeah, any beginner can come in and play this game, I call complete and total bullcrap. But now that you've explained it, all right, I'll give a little.
Yeah, the beginners aren't going to join the late night lobbies with us. No way. All right, before we move on, let's take a quick break to talk about our sponsor. This segment is proudly sponsored by the Leadus Podcast. It's a show where 3 friends and occasional guests play games about video games, including trivia, game show games, and more. Here is this week's trivia question. Even a trivia expert likely can't keep track of how many different creatures Mario has transformed into over the years. But if you were glued to Nintendo Power issues back in 1990, you'd know about a rejected transformation concept from Mario 3. The developers eventually settled on Raccoon Mario. What was the rejected transformation that was revealed in Nintendo Power Volume 10? Tune into the Leadus Podcast this Wednesday to hear the answer. You can find the Leadus on your favorite podcast platform, and we'll also have their links in the show notes.
So what do you think?
My first guess would be some other kind of animal.
Kind of. Kind of.
You nailed it.
I know, going out on a limb here.
I have this issue. I recently picked it up in a lot of Nintendo Power magazines. I have not had the chance to thumb through it. I'm gonna say
Redacted.
I'm going to say that it should be something that fulfilled the same kind of function as a Tanuki. Like if they just wanted Mario to fly and couldn't decide what suit to put him in. Maybe something like
Redacted.
I like the thought process, but you're completely in the wrong direction.
Dang it.
It's a mythical creature.
Redacted.
Nope.
Redacted.
Good job.
Whoa, really? Oh. So was it going to be like...
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay.
All right. Thank you for coming, students. Please take your seats. Welcome back to Professor Ryebread's Gaming History 101. In today's lesson, we're going back, way back, to a time before video games. We'll be talking about the history of arcades before video games ever existed. We call that the dark times.
I miss it so much.
So when somebody says that they're going to an arcade, the first thing that comes to mind, I would imagine, is a dark and dank room full of flashing lights, beeps, electronic music, wild pattern blacklight carpets, and a token/quarter machine. But long before the places were a staple for fun, they slowly emerged from roots that take us back to the Renaissance and before. So into the 19th century, and eventually began to form into familiar places for people to gather to be entertained. So let's look at the early history of what would eventually become arcades as we know it. Now, games of chance have existed since the beginning of civilization, with the cups and ball game being one of the first ways magicians swindled unsuspecting people out of their money, dating all the way back to the year 3 BCE in Rome. Are you guys familiar with the cup and ball game?
It's where the string is tied to the ball and the cup, and you like flip it up and try to catch it in the cup, right?
No. So it's...
What are we talking about here? Wait a second.
You're familiar with like 3-card Monte, right?
Yes.
Where you have to guess where the queen is. Then there's the shell and P, right? Where you have to guess where the P is under the shell. The cup and ball game is kind of like the first rendition of that. So you put the ball under one cup, guy moves it around a bunch, and then you have to guess which cup it's under without them showing the fact that they picked it up with their pinky and it's sitting behind the cup. So it's not, you're never going to guess it right. But that, I mean, if you think about it, entertainment when it comes to that kind of thing, people have always enjoyed from the beginning of time. There's even examples of that going all the way back to like ancient Egypt and stuff too. So it's not surprising that arcades kind of turned into what they are, because we naturally as human beings have a desire to game and to try to figure out. Now, there is a vast difference between games of chance and games of skill. In the early days, it was mostly games of chance, where it was more like gambling than it was games of skill. But eventually, these games would develop to basically become the staple of fairs that you would see in the Renaissance period in Europe, where paying customers would pay to see a magic trick with cards, a sporting event involving throwing objects to meet an objective or game, or games of skill. So if you think about it, if you've ever been to a carnival or something like that, where there was a baseball and you had to throw it as fast as possible. That's really where this comes from, is the Renaissance period in Europe, which is kind of crazy to think about. But these games were essentially a part of the attraction for the fairs that would keep customers around in between the events like jousting, sword fights, and other sporting events put on by, the wealthy aristocrats. So this was the games for the common people.
So was throwing a baseball in our day the equivalent of throwing a spike at someone's head back in their day?
Somehow I feel like that would be difficult for repeat customers, because they would get hauled off for being a murderer. But outside of that,
no, it's all the felons and all the people that got locked up in the castle. They just bring them out, and you're involved in the games.
So all of a sudden you become a gladiator for the day. Yeah, like, look, I killed 4 felons today. Look at it. That's my prize. Nice. So if we go forward into the United States in the kind of the early 1800s, these games became part of traveling entertainment booths that would move from town to town looking to entertain people for a few days, and then they would move on. Most of these games you'll probably recognize as the games of chance that you see at amusement parks today or a carnival, including milk bottle knockdown game, darts and balloons, and even rifle or pistol shooting. So if you've ever seen the movie Back to the Future, and he's number 3, where he's shooting the targets, that's exactly what we're talking about here. So it's not just a baby's toy, even though you have to use your hands. Now, the problem is, though, these games were known for being particularly rigged because operators could show up to a town, take people's money, and leave town before anyone was the wiser. So not a whole lot of regulation when it came to these games. But as time went on, and technology was more widely available, operators could make more sophisticated games that would be difficult to set up and tear down in a short period of time. Therefore, they'd stick around for weeks and months at a time, almost forcing them to host more legitimate games, which is, again, kind of funny. The technology made them be more, have some actual integrity when people played these things. As time went along, companies would make games that couldn't be constantly set up and torn down, but instead could be purchased by a saloon, shop, or hotel, or the new penny arcade, which was a concept named so because games cost a penny, and to have them available to customers to play whatever they wanted. In fact, the term close but no cigar comes from this era, as games now came with prizes for people to win. So, as you can imagine, if you did well in a game, you might get a free cigar.
Or something else. The sky is the limit with that.
All right. Now, slot machines were, of course, widely popular in this period and were actually first invented in 1894 in San Francisco. So in the 1930s, the pinball machine hit the scene and took the world by storm. Being fairly rudimentary at first, the first pinball games were named so because, similar to pachinko, the field included a ball and pins the players had to maneuver in order to place the ball in a desired target. Notice how I didn't mention flippers. They weren't a part of the early game, and skilled players would bump or tilt the machine to get it to go where they wanted, something that's restricted by modern versions of the game. And the phrase going on tilt derives from players getting too aggressive and with mechanical games and losing the ability to win/play. In the 1940s, in several cities across the US, the game of pinball was banned because it was considered gambling. In 1947, flippers were added to the game to turn it into a game of skill, but in many places, the ban remained in place up until the mid-1970s. Now, to avoid getting slapped with the same stigma as pinball games, many electromechanical games transformed from games of chance to games of skill, similar to skee-ball. New, more sophisticated games emerged as a result of the desire to show that their games were skill and not chance, such as the shooter game, with the likes of Shoot the Bear by Seberg, where players would use a rifle with a light bulb in the barrel that would aim at a trigger, turn on the bulb. If the sensor on the bear saw a light, a hit was registered. So this is the earlier version of Duck Hunt, if you want to think about it that way. Others included racing games like Drive Mobile from the early 1950s, which included a steering wheel and a seat for players to feel like they were in a real vehicle. But that's kind of where the immersion stopped, as the game consisted of a large cylinder with the road painted on it, and it rolled forward, and the player would control the car left or right to avoid random obstacles in the road. Now, fighting games, though, were made their way into the arcade in the 1950s with Mutascope's KO Champ, the predecessor to Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Two players would face off against each other in a simulated boxing ring covered in a glass dome. Each player would control a boxer by pulling triggers to punch or shift the controller around to change position. A hit that knocked the player back would result in a count by a mechanized referee. Eventually, the electromechanical games would fall out of favor as this new craze video games allowed players to experience more immersive entertainment with digital displays, relegating electromechanical games to be more games of chance than skill, and eventually fading into obscurity as they were replaced by digital boards. So if we look at this, as far as a gaming space is concerned, a lot of these types of games that we love and enjoy have history that comes from the past. So people 100 years ago were looking to be entertained just like we are, and the arcade was the place to go. So next time you're in a barcade or a pinball hall and you see an older game, don't skip it over. Give it a try and see that while we've come far from the olden days, the fun was still there.
Old things, although dangerous and slow behind the wheel, can still serve a purpose.
Thank you for attending today's Gaming History 101. And just a reminder, if you have ideas for a story you'd like to hear, send us a message at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com, and we might feature your suggestion.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap up the show. Thank you for listening to episode 63 of Gamers Week Podcast. And a big thank you to the Retro Game Club Podcast, the Leadus Podcast, and Love Retro BTW for sponsoring this episode. Don't forget to check out their links in the show notes. If you want to connect with Gamers Week, follow us on Twitter at GamersWeekPC. Email us at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com. Visit our merch store at gamers-week-podcast.creator-spring.com. Or if you want to do it the easy way, follow the link in the show notes. Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/gamersweek. And finally, since you made it all the way to the end of this episode, please leave us a rating and a review to let us know how we did. We really do value your feedback. And while you're there, consider subscribing on iTunes, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice. That's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you all next week.
Yo, 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 this is the Gamers Week, and you get to see Donnie because his eyebrows on me.
Oh my God, that's so awesome. Yes, that's got to be the new thing. That has to be the new thing for going forward. Like, at least until we get tired of it and want to change it up, that has to be the new thing.
Whatever you guys want.
Whatever?
All right, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut, patrons with benefits. This is the unscripted, patron-only bonus cast with less editing and more dirty jokes. We don't know where the conversation will go, but we're sure it will be weird.
This fish just went right on my nipple, and I'm just like,
I Google Street Fighter 6. The first search result that comes up is people think they can see Ryu's in the Street Fighter 6 reveal.
Listen up here, kids. You're not going to want to get one of those VD STDs things, right? Make you fall off. When you go, grab a pro. You'll be doing it for America.
that was perfect.
If you want to hear weekly episodes of our patron-only bonus cast, join us at patreon.com/gamersweek.